Okay, Chevra. So, b'siyata d'shmaya, we're going to begin. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm just going to be a little bit like last week, trying to manage all these different things and letting people in, which is okay. And we should be set. B'siyata d'shmaya. If you've taken a cursory glance at the source sheets, you see that there's a phenomenal amount to cover. We're going to try to do that in a time-efficient way, because this is a huge sugya, and there were many more sources that I cut out than I included, and maybe we'll have a part 2, maybe even, on this particular sugya. But let's just begin, and let's go with Siyata D'Shmaya, and Tefillah HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we should have Kvitza Saderech with this. I managed to get to the point, which is of course every word. Every word is the point. There's no, we're not trying to get to the end. We're trying to get in the words that we're learning. And with Hashem's help, I hope that we'll emerge with a deeper perception of this thing called Shabbos that we're about to enter. B'siyata d'shmaya. If you remember last week, for the chaver that were here, last week we spoke about the concept of Yitzchak Avinu vis-a-vis Shabbos. We spoke about the base level validation or justification of our humanity, where a person who has nothing other than being human, he has a reason on Shabbos to rejoice. He has a reason on Shabbos to feel validated, to feel okay. How so? Because we said that Yitzchak Avinu argues on behalf of Am Yisrael when they have nothing left other than their humanity. And there's value in that because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu created specifically a human being and not an angel to serve him. And Hashem has many thousands and myriads of angels. There's something of value in being human that Hashem needs, so to speak. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a stake in our humanity. And even if, like we spoke about last week, we're not living up to whatever ideals that we may set for ourselves, in the very possibility of us making mistakes and failing, well, that's where our humanity is. And so in a certain sense, there's value even in those moments where we feel as if we've relinquished all value by very dint of our being able to fail and our being able to experience limitation. And therefore we said that Shabbos in a certain way represents, we spoke about Malchus, and we spoke about how HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ultimate goal is for there to be an imperfect species that's able to recognize him, crown him king on the world. And that's what Shabbos represents, and that was its connection to Yitzchak, and the Menucha of Noach. That was last week. Now, I want to take one step further now. I want to take a step further beyond Yitzchak and into the world of Yaakov Avinu. And the shift here being moving from a person who feels as if there's nothing other than an empty kli, than an empty vessel, and there being justification there, to a person that deeply desires to connect to a point high up, to a point of readiness to begin growing, leaving the realm of the body and the humanity that's baked into it, and entering into the realm of the soul and the desire to begin doing some of that work. And how Shabbos can enable us to begin to take those rudimentary steps beyond the experience of just, okay, I'm a human being with all the failures and all the brokenness that comes along with that, and I'm ready to move. And I'm ready to connect to something higher, something deeper. Let's begin with Siyata D'Shmaya. The Gemara in Shabbos tells us the following thing. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Yosi, Kol ha'anigas HaShabbos, whoever invests in the experience of pleasure and delight on Shabbos, and it doesn't just say, keeping Shabbos, but whoever delights in Shabbos, noisnin loy, they give him, he's given from heaven, what's referred to in the Gemara here as nachla b'li meitzarim, which is a boundaryless inheritance. Nachla, it's milashon nachal, like a flow, like a shotef. Nachal shotef is a river. But a river is pretty much defined by boundaries on either side. Nachla b'li mitzarim is an experience of something that has no boundaries at all, and extends infinitely, forever, in every direction. Shabbos gifts a person an experience of what's referred to here as a nachla b'li mitzarim. an experience of an inheritance that's boundaryless. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, "Az tisaneg al Hashem." This pasuk is found in the Nevi'im. After speaking and presenting Shabbos and keeping Shabbos properly, it says, "Az tisaneg al Hashem." Then you're going to be able to take pleasure and delight in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'yirkavticha al b'masei aretz, and Hashem will ride you or enable you to sit above al b'masei aretz, on the high places of the earth. V'achalticha nachlas Yaakov Avicha, and Hashem promises that He will gift us with what's referred to here again as nachlas Yaakov Avicha, the portion of Yaakov, your father. And the Gemara continues, like Avram shekasa b'kum misalech ba'aretz la'arka, not like Avraham, about whom it said, stand up and walk the land la'arka, to its length. V'like Yitzchak, and not like Yitzchak, that it says by Yitzchak shekasa b'kilecha ulizaracha etines kol aretz esakel, that I will give you the land, again, it's called Aretz Esakel, all of these lands, but it's still a specification. It's still a specific promise, limited promise. Eleki Yaakov. Rather like Yaakov, Shekasuv, that it says, Ufaratzta yama v'kedma tzafayna v'negma. There's no limit to the expansion of the neshama of Yaakov Avinu through his descendants. There's no such thing as just being confined to one place, one land. Even if it's the land of Eretz Yisrael. It's the whole entire world. It's all the cosmos. It's every particle of physicality. Says the Gemara, that's pshat on the pasuk. If we'll keep Shabbos properly and delight in Shabbos, take pleasure in Shabbos, Hashem promises us nachlas Yaakov, which we learned Yaakov meaning that kind of experience that's without boundary in all directions. Nachlas Yaakov is nachla b'li mitzarim, Yaakov Avinu. Now, before going further, I want to speak just for a minute about Yaakov Avinu. Which I could speak for a very, very long time about Yaakov Avinu and the distinction between Yaakov and Avram and Yitzchak, perhaps. Or any of the other Avos. What's unique about Yaakov and the spiritual midah that Yaakov Avinu personifies, which is the midah of Tiferes. Yaakov Avinu has a unique experience. We don't find by any of the other Shivaroim, the other shepherds, any of the Nevi'im. Yaakov Avinu alone has the dream of the ladder. The ladder is on the ground, it reaches to the heavens, and the angels are going up and down this ladder. All the Svarim point out, doesn't say, on the ladder ba, or oilim v'yardim ala sulam, rather boy. And the boy is seen as referring to Yaakov Avinu himself. The Malachim are going sort of up and down. Yaakov Avinu himself is the ladder. And in this imagery, we learn about the Jew's essence. This is what we're supposed to be. Sure, our feet are on the ground, mutzav arza. Our head, so to speak, the spiritual aspect of our being, our soul, our essence, is supposed to be rooted in the highest realms of Shemayim. And Malachi Elikim Oilim Yardim, the Svarim explain, the Kedushas Levin of Shachaim, others, is referring to all the spiritual energies in the world that move up and down, have their experience of Aliyah or Yerida based on our boy, based on our actions. We're the ones who are really moving and shaking the whole world, which we literally do with the lulav. We're mama shaking the world awake. That's literally what we do. And then the pasuk continues, Vihine Hashem nitzav alav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is nitzav alav, translated standing over him. But it's a very, very interesting lashon. It could say, V'hine Hashem oimid alav. Hashem is standing near him, upon him, over him. Nitzav, what's nitzav? Say the Svarim HaKadoshim, particularly the Svarim of the Ishbitzer Tzadikim, the Mea Shiloach, the Beis Yaakov of Ishbitz. They say, you know what it means? V'hine Hashem nitzav alav. Nitzav, he says, is a lashon of matseva. What's a matseva? Nebuch. A person leaves the world and we put a matseva to mark the place where he's buried. Why? Why do we put a matseva there? Because we want that to be a place, hopefully, if nobody tampers with it, it should be there forever, until Tchias HaMesim. It should be a place where generations and generations can come afterwards, and we're very particular about making sure that we remember exactly where the markings are, particularly tzaddikim, that there are messiahs, where, particularly Rabbi Nachman, about exactly where he was buried, whole messiah about that. Matseva means it's firmly rooted. Not just it's there. It's a matseva. It's meant to be there forever. The Sfarim say that Yaakov Avinu's subjective experience is that he can go up and down the ladder. There's the up part of him and there's the down part of him in relativity to the objective presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I can either get close to God or I can become further from God. And Hashem is saying, Yaakov Avinu, that's your subjective experience. You know what the truth is? V'hinei Hashem nitzav alav. Hashem says, from my perspective, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's a place where I'm bound with you that transcends your experience of Aliyah and Yerida. Doesn't mean it's not real. Doesn't mean it's imagined. Doesn't mean there's not truth to it. Of course there is. And there are places of Tahara and there are places of Tumah. And there are mitzvahs and there are not mitzvahs. And Sur Meirah and Asay Tov, all of these things apply. All these things apply. Thank you so much for coming. All these things apply. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says specifically to Yaakov Avinu, V'hinei Hashem nitzav alav. There's a place within me that has a connection to you, Yaakov Avinu, that never ever goes away. And indeed we find, specifically by Yaakov Avinu, that unlike Avraham, who was able to have a child who wasn't a Jewish person, and unlike Yitzchak, who was able to bring Esav into the world who was not a Jewish person, Yaakov Avinu's neshama is rooted in such a place vis-a-vis its relationship with its essence, the chelek elok hamimal, a portion of the divine that's invested within this particular individual, that no matter what, his children and their children and their children, until the end of time, nothing needing to be earned. V'hinei Hashem nitzav alav. Yaakov Avinu has this connection that's just forever, baked into their spiritual DNA.
In contrast, Avram and Yitzchak
Avram Avinu gives birth to Yishmael.
Why?
Yitzchak gives birth. We don't have time right now to get into to all of that. Why we're going to touch partly on it, and maybe we'll develop these ideas. I'm actually speaking a little bit on that topic next week, Be'ezras Hashem. Not in this context. I'm speaking for Torah Way one of the mornings, and I'm speaking a little bit on that topic. I've spoken about it over the Yom Tovim in different shuls. Actually, that was part of my Torah, but I don't have time to get into that right now. But that's a very, very deep thing. It's an important question. We'll touch a little bit on it, a little bit. But Chazal tell us, what were the Malachim doing when they were running up and down the ladder? Rashi brings, they were bewildered. They were bewildered because they saw Yaakov Avinu laying on the ground below. Thanks so much for coming. Right? They see Yaakov Avinu on the ground laying there. That's down the ladder. And then they hurry up the ladder because Yaakov Avinu's face is etched on the Kisei HaKavod above. So that they're trying to reconcile these two realities. That on the one hand, the Jewish person is human, but on the other hand, there's a part of Yaakov Avinu that's etched in, not pasted with like a little bit of tape, etched into the Kisei HaKavod, part and parcel of the Kisei HaKavod, but Omek, made up of the Kisei HaKavod in and of itself, nothing extraneous. Etching is not that a person goes and paints something. That's already something that's applied to something else. It's one and the same, miksha achas. When Yaakov Avinu fights with the Sarah Shel Esav, the pasuk says, "Vayisabek ish imai." He fought, right, with the Sarah Shel Esav. They wrestled, they grappled. What's this lashon? Vayisabek, that they wrestled. Vayavek ish imai. What's this lashon? Says Chazal, the word avak means sand. That's the root of this word, that they were wrestling one with the other. Says Chazal, what's sand? On one part, it means the sand that was stirred up by their struggle. But the Gemara says that sand went up to the Kisei HaKavod. That's what Chazal say that. Went up to the Kisei HaKavod. Say the tzaddikim, you know what this means? The whole thing of Esav, the whole thing of the Satan, of the inner voice of negativity that's trying to convince us to pursue the lowly parts of us, the mutzav arza parts of us, to forget that place in the Kisei HaKavod, and wants to throw a bunch of dust onto it to cover it up. But ultimately the tzaddikim say that's all it can ever be. It's just a little bit of dust. What do you do with dust? You wipe it off. And the etching is still there. The etching is there. You can't even erase an etching. It's just there. It's baked in. This is Yaakov Avinu. This is Yaakov Avinu. With this in mind, let's move into the next source from the Heilige Nefesh HaChaim, Zchus Yagun Aleinu, Rav Chaim of Volozhin. Well, the tzaddik says as follows, very fundamental thing. All the spiritual worlds, including our physical experience, as if there was a physical world, it's all an illusion, are wrapped up into 4 entities. And we refer to them as worlds, but I don't want us to think about them like just like we live in a world, there are 3 other worlds. That's not what we're speaking about. We refer to them as worlds because each one is a dimension in and of itself. But it doesn't mean like another planet somewhere, right? It means there are 4 fundamental interlocking dimensions to our existence. What's the nature of the 4 and in what way are they positioned? The first of the 4 is nearest to an experience of divine as divine, Ein Sof. And then from there we get closer and closer and closer to a realm of limit, which is the process of tzimtzum, of constriction, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu enclothes his godliness again and again and again in different ways where we approach limitation until finally this process culminates in our physical world. We say 4, but that's like the broadest way of referring to what's called the Seder HaHishtalshelus, this chain of emanation. But each of those 4 contains within itself an infinite continuum of these 4 levels. And they're made up of 10 spheros, these 10 kinds of energies, and each of these 10 contains 10, and each of those 10 contains 10. It's an infinitely complex system. And all this is happening right now as we speak. And it's accessible as we move through different states of consciousness, which maybe we'll get to. So here he's speaking about, hey, I get to see you. Here he's speaking about these 4 levels. And they are as follows. Ha'efanim. The first level he refers here to the certain kind of malach called an ofan. And that's rooted in the spiritual aspect of our physical world. Ofanim. These type of malachim called ofanim. That's called the olam ha'asiyah, the world of action. Move up a level, and that's the world of Yetzirah, the world of creation. And there we have a kind of angel called the Chayas. Not getting into this now, just trying to do it as quickly as we can. We move one level beyond that, and that's the level of Beriah, creation. It's more elemental than formation. Formation means you have something and then you form it into something else. And then finally, Asiyah, right? But the world of Beriah is creation. Boom, Yesh Me'ayin. That's where, from our perspective, ayin, which is nothingness, which is the incomprehensible and the ineffable absolute, becomes something, so to speak, vis-a-vis our perception. That's the world of Beriah. That's the world of Beriah. Yesh me'ayin, and he says over here that what's in the world of Beriah? The Kisei HaKavod. The Kisei HaKavod is in the world of Beriah. Every time you think about the word Beriah, Kisei HaKavod. And then the highest level is referred to as Atzilus Kodshay. Have you ever heard the Olam Atzilus? Right? It's always the highest place. What's Atzilus? Milashon Etzlo. Etzlo means something that's near HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the place we refer to as Ayin. It's really nothingness. It's like existence before it even emerges from our perspective. So we have Atzilus, which is Ayin, nothingness, so to speak, godliness. But the first beginning, a dawn of the possibility for creation to emerge. Then we have Beriah, which is a Yesh Me'ayin, where something begins to emerge from nothingness and becomes quote-unquote something, but it's still very elemental. It's still like just silly putty. It didn't make it into anything yet, but it's there. It's the material. Then we have the world of Yetzirah, which is the third, which is the world of formation. Okay, now things start to become specified. And then finally, Olam Asiyah, which is our reality. Of course, these 4 levels are bound up with the 4 letters of Hashem's primary name. Yud, Ke, Vav, Ke. Because we don't say this word, we refer to it as the Shem Havaya, right? Which is also letters Yud, Ke, Vav, Ke, out of order, so you can say it, the Shem Havaya. But the truth is that the word Havaya is a word. It means something. What does it mean? Creation. The Shem Havaya. Havaya means creation. That means that these 4 letters of Yud Ke Vav Ke encompass all of creation, from the first emergence of the possibility of something being formed that's not God, so to speak, at least from our perspective, and finally culminates, boom, in the last Hey, which is our physical world. And the Sfarim say, anytime you say the name Yud Kei Vav, even though we don't say it actually, only the Kohen Gadol says it on Yom Kippur, in the Kodesh HaKodashim. But when we say Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which is the way that we express that name Yud Kei Vav Kei, he says you're literally carrying all of existence in your mouth. It's a frightening thing. And that's why Loisisa Shem Hashem Lashav is such a big deal. I'm not saying Hashem's name in vain. Because to utter that name is literally to hold within your mouth, within your capability or capacity of expression, not just this whole world, but everything that is. Yud Kei Vav Kei. Seeing the gematria of the letter Vav as 6, which is what it is, plus 1 for the last Hey, so we're not taking the 5 of Hey, but 1 in and of what the letter is. It's just one letter. So the last Hey, and then the Vav, which is the last 2 letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei, we have the number 7, right? 7 is the realm of nature. 7 is the realm of nature. 7 is the realm of this worldliness. Everything in this world is 7, if you ever noticed. Everything in this world is 7. 7 colors, 7 musical notes, 7 days of the week, 7 classical planets, 7 metals, 7 seas, 7 continents. Everything in this world is 7. In the natural world, everything is 7. Yismchu hashamayim, the pasuk says, let the heavens rejoice. V'sagel haaretz, and let the earth exult. Let it rejoice as well. The Rosh Hashanah being Yud Kei, Vav Kei. So Yismchu hashamayim refers to the spiritual realms. That's Yud Kei. That's the higher realms. The Sagel Haaretz is Vav Kei. That's our reality. That's the 7ness of nature. It's the 6 of the Vav, together with the 1 of the last letter of the Hey. And that's the realm of 7. That's what we refer to, without getting into the depth of it, the lower 7 spheros out of 10, right? So we have 10 creative energies with which Hashem creates the world. The first 3 correspond to the thought process that goes into creation. And then the bottom 7 is like, okay, once we have the whole blueprint planned out, but that takes place in a hidden spiritual way, in the same way that our thoughts are hidden, but then they manifest in action. And that begins with the hands. That's Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus, 7 energies, the lower 7 energies. But that's this world. That's the Vav Hey. What do you get when you go beyond 7? Beyond 7 is 8. 8 is miracles. 8 is miracles. 8 is 8 days of Hanukkah. It's a total miracle from a realm beyond nature, shattering nature. Comes from a place beyond. 8 is the days of the bris, which enables us to reign over our nature, right? Our natural humanity. The bris gives us the capacity to overcome, to recognize there's avoda in that place. There's avoda to do, shemir sabris, to overcome. 8 are the tzitzis strings, 4 and 4, which enable us to tap into that energy of working on this inyan of bris. Re'isem oiser zachartam is called mitzvahs Hashem. We can do it. We can overcome. 8 is always one above nature. Nature being 7. What's the one above 7 in Yud Kei Vav Kei? Well, if Vav Kei is 7, the one above is the world of Hey, the first Hey. That's the realm, if you remember, where Ayin, nothingness, which is the Yud, starts to become somethingness. Interesting place. It's the bridge between nothing and something. It's the birthplace of something. It's the womb within which nothing begins to turn into something. This world of the Hey, which is referred to as the Hey Ilah, the higher Hey vis-a-vis the Hey Tata, the lower Hey of Malchus, that last Hey, is referred to as either the Olam HaBriya, which we already said, the world of creation, right? Creation is something from nothing. Or it's referred to as the Sphira, the energy of Binah. Binah. On a literal level, it just means comprehension, right? Binah. But what is Binah? As a cognitive process, how is it different from Chachma? Because Chachma is just a flash of awareness, of consciousness. Boom, it's a brainstorm, it's an idea, it's an insight, flash, like lightning. Binah takes that flash, which is essentially nothing because it comes and goes, and it wasn't due to anything we did in order to deserve it or work toward it, it just was. Moment of inspiration, and it begins to work. It begins to work with it. It begins to prepare it for capacity to become actualized in action. Through the hands, which is the next level down, chesed, gevura, tiferes, netzachot, and so on, the vav and the hey, to bring it down into the realm of the revealed, the realm of the perceptible. That's why there are 50 gates of Binah. Everybody knows, right? There are 50 gates. You ever heard? 50 gates of Binah. Chamishim shari Binah. Why 50? Because we said before that 7 is nature. 7 times 7 is the ultimate pinnacle of nature. It's like 7 kaful 7. In Kabbalah, in number, so times is the accentuation of a thing. It's not this plus that, it's this times that. 50 is 1 above 7 times 7 is 49. 50 is 1 above that. So just like Binah in its plain form is 8, 1 above 7, Binah as the 50 gates of Binah is 1 above 49, which is 7 times 7. And this, friends, is the inyan of the Kisei HaKavod. This is what the Nefesh HaChaim is telling us. 4 levels. What exists in each? Atzilus, Ayin, Etzlo. Next to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, nothing from our standpoint. The next world is the Kisei HaKavod. That's the world of Binah. That's the world of Bria. That's the world of one beyond nature. And then we get into the world of the Chayis, which is Yitzira, and then the Ifanim of Asiyah. Because things begin to unravel, at least from our perspective, after the world of Bria, or in Bria, which is Yesh Me'ayin. What's Yesh? Yesh, if it's not godliness, so then it's somethingness, and somethingness is splintered. Somethingness is an experience of fragmentation. That's what this world is. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Echad. Only the world of spirituality subsumed within the Absolute is Echad. So that realm of Binah is a world of oneness. It's a world of oneness. And it is, paradoxically, the place where multiplicity is sweetened, because it is the source from which multiplicity comes. And so if we wanted to climb above multiplicity, that's the place. But paradoxically, it's also the place from which multiplicity emerges. And it has this dual nature. On the one hand, it's the start of din. The Zohar Kadosh refers to it, Minad Dinin Misarin. Binah is the place where din, or fragmentation, begins. But it's also the place where din is sweetened. It's also the place of Hamtakas Hadinim. Because the only way to really fix something is at the source. It's the birthplace of the problem, but it's also the birthplace of the fixing. That's a little crash course on a lot of things, but on Binah. Let's go a little bit further. V'nishmas kol echad hu ha'olam she'alav. The soul of each of those levels is the level above it. So it's all relative. Because one thing is the quote-unquote body vis-a-vis the thing before it, but it is the soul vis-a-vis the thing after it. And this is how it goes in all the levels. This is called hitlabshut, hislabshus. One level, like layers of an onion. One level is the body vis-a-vis the higher level, but it is the soul vis-a-vis the lower level, which then becomes the outside. And so it goes from level to level to level to level, as godliness, as it were, encloses itself in such a way that we can perceive reality without realizing that we're literally sitting within divinity. But we perceive it as a world of limitation, as a world where things begin and things end. And it's true from our perception. From our perception, it's true. But it's important to understand how we got here and how we can get out. Kemoisha Kasav, as the pasuk in Yechezkel says, "Uvihinasei hachayis v'gaimer yinasu ha'ifanim lu'umasam." When the chayos moved, and the chayos again are rooted in the letter vav in the world of Yitzira, so then the ifanim moved. The ifanim being the level below them, right? Because they are the soul to the level below them. When they moved, when the soul moves, so to speak, the layer below them moves. Ki ruach hachaya ba'ofanim, because the spirit of the chayas was in the ofanim. Even though they're two different levels, they're two different levels of angels, but ultimately, when one moved, the other one moved. The pasuk continues, when the chayas stopped, so the ofanim stopped. When they moved, the ofanim moved, because they were the soul of the ofanim below them. And he says ultimately that the chayas of the higher world, which are the soul vis-a-vis the angels in the world of Asiya, they themselves are the body vis-a-vis the level beyond them, which is the letter Hey, the first letter Hey, which is the world of the Kisei HaKavod. Even though it's being carried by the chayas, it's being carried. It is carrying, because it is the soul of them. Just like the Aron. The Aron is not carried by the Kohanim. When the Aron moves, they move. It was Zara Chadash Yisrael, and the Zara says the same thing. Ma'aseh Merkava Amid Gimel Amid Aleph. The Chayas Natlin L'Denatlin line. The Chayas carried those who were carrying it. Again, those who were carrying it is the body, vis-a-vis the Chayas themselves, which are the soul. And then it goes on, and it says the Kisei HaKavod, which is the first Hey, carried the Vav, and the Vav carried the last Hey. And so it goes, with each thing being the body, vis-a-vis the level before it, which is the soul. Okay, what's the soul of the Kisei HaKavod though? Meaning, what makes the whole thing move, right? See, he said Atzilus, what's that? V'nishmas ha'chayim shel ha'kisei husoy shorish ha'elyon shel klalos nishmas Yisrael yachad. He says what's atop this whole structure is the collective soul of the Jewish nation, rooted in the original thought that Hashem had when wanting to create this whole world, which we discussed at length last week. Yisrael alu b'machshava tchila, before anything else, is the essential birthplace of the Jewish nation on the level of koyach, before they actually are born and emerge. Just the thought of them, the essence of them. Shuhu yoser gavoyo ma'oidnale gam mehakisei, that they are rooted in a place higher than, and even beyond the Kisei HaKavod itself, Shuhu Adam Sha'al HaKisei, which is referred to in the pasuk in Yechezkel, which talks about a man sitting above the Kisei. Who's that? He says that's the Jewish person. And the collectivity of the Jewish nation, which manifests as fragmented soul shards within each and every Jewish individual, from Avram Avinu all the way until the end of time. Kamei Sham, like the pasuk says there, Val Demus HaKisei. That's what's above the Kisei HaKavod. And that's the collective soul of the Jewish nation. But where do our souls begin to emerge from in their uniqueness? Where do they begin to emerge from in their uniqueness? The answer is, we begin to emerge in our uniqueness as individuals from underneath the Kisei HaKavod, where the Pnei Yaakov is chakuk, as an individual with a face, with a name, as our father, as it were, our forefather in this world. Below the Kisei HaKavod is where the neshamas begin to emerge in and of themselves. Even though we're rooted in a place higher than the Kisei, each and every one of us have inside of us different levels of our consciousness, different levels of our functionality: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechida. We have these 5 levels of functionality. Nefesh is just the animal soul. Ruach is the spirit. Neshama, that's hard to translate, right? The breath, soul. And then chaya and yechida are above and beyond, right? The living life force, and then the essence, the unique essence. But on the level of neshama, that's where we begin to operate as independent beings. Neshama correlates to thought. Ruach correlates to speech. Nefesh corresponds to maisa, to action. And that's how we are as people. We think, we speak, and we act. Chaya and yechida don't really have an overt manifestation in our experience. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya and yechida. So again, if you're keeping track, if these levels align with the 4 levels that we spoke about, even though in this schema there's a 5th, we didn't get into that, how that correlates to the worlds and the spheres, it does, and the Shem of Yud Kei Vav Kei, even though there are only 4 letters, but the Yud, the first Yud, has a tip of the Yud, and that's an entity in and of itself. We're not going there now. Then our independent neshamos begin on the level of neshama, and that's 3rd out of 5, right? And so if we're counting back from the letter Hey, it's Hey, Vav, and Hey. which is the Kisei HaKavod. That's where we begin to emerge as individual souls with individual characteristics and traits and capacities and abilities. That's our departure from the realm of oneness on a soul level, subsumed within the collectivity of Am Yisrael as a whole, into the realm of separateness. And that's why Rabbi Nachman says in Likutei Moharan Tinyan of Zebechinas, the pasuk in Iyov says, Me'achez Penei Kisei, of those who hold on to the Kisei HaKavod, says the Rebbe, Shetzarach la'echez atzmei b'shar she'an hashamayis. Every Jew needs to bind himself with the root of all souls, hachatzuvais mitachas Kisei HaKavod, which are etched out from underneath, mitachas Kisei HaKavod, from underneath the Kisei HaKavod, from the world of Bria, yesh me'ayin, where there was a place of ayin, and then yesh, something begins to emerge on the level of neshama, she'i bechinas Aim Kol Chai, which is compared and considered the mother of all being. Because again, it's the womb. It's the place which was empty, and then within which something begins to take root and emerge. Now, friends, something happens to us. Something happens to us. Because we're speaking about this ethereal root and this place of collectivity where everything is really rooted in this amazing place beyond neshama, right? Or the very beginning of the emergence of neshama underneath the Kisei HaKavod, where things are aligned, things are etched in, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu has this relationship with us. But something along the way goes wrong. Because I, at least, and I'm sure for most of us, we don't really live in alignment with that part of us, right? Or that perception of our identity all the time. We sin, right? Sin. It's a terrible word. It's a terrible translation of chet. The word chet means to miss. We miss. We don't always meet the mark of what we're actually after, what we're striving for, what we feel deep inside we need to experience for our survival, for our ability to be okay, whatever, however you want to refer to it. But we do often miss. Where's the root of all of this missing? It's got to be the first sin, which is the chet eitz hadas. Everything is rooted in that. Any deviation is rooted in that first decision of man to choose something other than the expressed will of the Master of Heaven and Earth, of the Creator of the world. Says the Zohar Kadosh in Parshas Emor, a little bit later, Adam and Chava stray from the path of faith. And they left what's referred to as the Eitz HaChayim, the tree of life, which in Kabbalah, the word Ilah is always a reference to Binah, to the world of Bria. We said before it's called the Hey Ilah, right? The lofty, elevated Hey, Kel Elyon. The word Elyon, Ilah, is always a reference to Binah. And it's Yechidah. We said that's the realm of oneness. They let go of that place, of that perception of their identity. And they enter themselves into an experience of reality where things are differing, where there's opposites, and where there's fragmentation, where there's multiplicity. From good to bad, which is of course the Eitz Hadas, all of a sudden there's Tov and Ra. That's only possible in the world of Yitzira, which Al Pi Kabbalah, without getting into the depth of it, everything is so deep. The Eitz Hadas, Tov and Ra, is the world of separation, and is the Eitz Hadas Tov and Ra, is the world of Yitzira. It's called Klipas Noya. Because there are 6 contrasting levels within which all of reality, at least halachically and religiously, Jewishly, are split. There's Tamei Tahar, Mutar Asar, Kasher Pasal. 6. Tov and Ra. 3 on the side of Tov, 3 on the side of Ra, 6 being the gematria of Vav, Vav being the Vav of Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Olam of Yitzira, the place where Bria begins to fragment into all these different kinds of midos. We let go of Binah, which is the Olam of the Eitz HaChayim, which he refers to here as the Ilana Yechida Ila'a. And we held on to the lower realm. We let go of the place of V'roisha Magia Shamayma, and we started to assume the identity of the Sulam Mutzav Arza. V'nachtu me'elu l'sata. And they rested from above and they rested below. V'zdabku l'sata b'shinuyin sagiyin. And they became rooted in the lower realm. V'shavka ila'a dekoila. And they left that place of ila'a, which is bria bina, which is dekoila duhuchad, the realm of oneness, the realm of unity. V'lo yashtana la'almin, the realm that doesn't ever change, which we're going to get to in the next source, that doesn't ever change. They left all of that. The pasuk says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created man straight, just one, on one path. But then Behema Bikshu Cheshbonos Rabim. But they let go of that realm of Bria, of the shirish of their neshamas, and they began to seek Cheshbonos Rabim in a life that takes this world way too seriously. Which is all rooted in that first letting go of the Eitz HaChaim that they were commanded to eat from. And instead they take from the Eitz HaDas Tevirah. The Hema Bikshu Cheshbonos Rabim Vadai, says the Zohar. Yes, this is exactly what it means. They held on to Cheshbonos Rabim Kedinasapich Lebayu Ba'hu Sitra Mamish. This became their major issue. Zimna Latav, Zimna Labish, Zimna Larachame. Sometimes all the different kinds of ways in which things are splintered in time and in space and in the identity. Zimna Ladina. Whatever way they chose to connect to it. They connected themselves to this tree of alternating states of reality instead of maintaining a connection to that which is Asali Kimas Adam Yashar. Just one. It's just one. It's just one.
Is there an explanation why?
Why what?
Why they let go?
It's very, very deep. It's very deep. Why did they let go of that place? What were they looking for? What were they afraid of? Because most of the things that we do or don't do are motivated by fear very, very deeply. What was it very deeply that they were afraid of? It was very, very deep. And I think we can talk about that for a long time, but we don't have the time right now. But Be'ezer Hashem, that's something that we should think about. And not everything should go said. In this realm of Torah, it's just true. It's not a realm of like machlekes that you learn a sugya and this one says this and that one says this. This is Torah's emes. It's just, everyone agrees. It checks on all accounts everywhere you look. It just is, So I think it's beautiful to create spaces for further thinking. That's really the ultimate goal. Not just that we should really develop minds that are fertile for this kind of contemplation. So that's a great jumping point, launch pad. That was the root of sin. And again, also, because that's the root of the way that we experience things, every deviation that I have in my life is gonna be a little bit of a reflection in a fragment of that source. And so I don't need to look very far. I need to look in my life. It's not a question of why Adam and Chava let go of the Eitz HaChaim. It's why I fill in the blank, right? It's why I speak Lashon Hara. It's why, right? And so it requires us to really reflect on the, so to speak, the Adam and Chava in us that are listening to the Nachash in us, right? And that can help us try to figure out and project back onto their root experience. And of course, there are many, many levels. Now that's the shirish of chet, of missing. What's the shirish of Teshuvah? If you remember, we said before that everything needs to be fixed in its root. If that's where it broke, that's where it's got to be fixed. Says the Zohar Kodesh in Shir HaShirim, Ki gavna doksiv. Such a beautiful Zohar Kodesh. The pasuk in Tehillim says, Halach yelechu v'chai. We're just going to, before we go into the actual words, let's just translate the pasuk. Halach yelechu v'chai nasa meshach hazar b'yav avrina noisi ala moisav. The Gemara in Tainis darshans it on animals that were going in a famine, and they were walking, and they didn't have any food, and they were halach yelechu v'chai. The oxen were walking, and they were crying as they went. Noise meshach hazara. The Gemara says, and then they planted, and it was a nace that happened by Yaakov Avinu. And on their way back from the field, the seeds had already begun to sprout, and they had food, and it grew very, very quickly. By Yaakov Avinu, they came back with joy. Noise halamois of carrying stalks. That's what the Gemara Darshan is based on this pasuk. They went and they were crying, and then by Yaakov Avinu, and then they returned with joy. Says the Zohar, what's it a reference to? Api Penimiyus. What's the soul of it? What's the depth? They were going and crying. This is a reference to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he walks and he walks along and he's crying because of this deviation and this illusion that Am Yisrael are falling for, which is that we are rooted in this world and we're not connecting to the root of our soul. So the What does it mean that they were holding? They were holding a measurement of zara, of seeds. So he says, "Daraza de Kisei de Ikara." This is the secret of the Kisei HaKavod. Kisei is Kisei, is a chair. Ikara is HaKavod, is precious. A glorious chair. This is the secret of the glorious chair. The iu natal meshichu de zera kudsha ilah. Because the job of the Kisei HaKavod again is to take the zera, which is the world of Atzilus, right? The seeds, the shoirish of our identity, and then like a womb to be kolet, to take it in, to hold it, and then enable it to become an individual. So that's what's referred to after Halach Yelechu V'Achai, when Hashem is crying over the sins of the Jewish nation, Noise Meshech Hazara. But there's a fixing. Where does that fixing take place? In the realm of Kisei de Ikara, of the Kisei HaKavod, L'men ba'peirim bi'ibn b'hai alma, which takes from the root of the souls in the world of Atzilus, and like the womb, brings it in and allows for the ayin to become yesh, to bring forth Peirus into the world. He says, when Am Yisrael call out in Teshuvah, call, like we say, call moment, right? Teshuvah, Tefillah, Tzedakah. What's Teshuvah's call? Tefillah's call, but one of them is connected to the concept of Teshuvah, calling out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to call out to Hashem. Even though they are not fitting. Even though on a certain level, there's a pegam, there's a chait, there's a missing, there's a deviation, there's a misidentification with the lower parts of us. Im kol da, even though this is true, Kudshabarichu Ailallah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu elevates us, Va'ashkela, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu waters us. Mashkin de Nachla Amika, water from what's referred to as this very, very, very deep spring. Deep spring. It's called deep because it's up beyond this natural world. So we think of deep digging down. We could also dig up deeply. So dig up deeply. What do you get when you dig deeply beyond the world? You get to the world of 8, to the world of Binah, to the world of 50, to the world of beyond 49, to the world of Bria. And from there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu draws down water. Water that's cleansing. Water that David HaMelech calls out for when he says, V'zarakti aleichem mayim tahirim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, I will throw upon you water and you shall be cleaned. Water, this is the concept of the mikvah. The mikvah is the womb. The womb is filled with water. Surrounds us on all sides. We emerge from the mikvah like a ger, like reborn. Reborn. We don't have a connection. A ger doesn't have a connection with his biological parents. The mikvah does that. So the mikvah is the water of the Nachla Amikta, of that place of this deep spring of Binah, of Bria, which is the concept of the womb. Leiv tar birali Elokim. Bira, Bria, yesh me'ayin. David HaMelech says, recreate me. V'ruach nachin chadish bekirbi. Reb Nassan says is the first breath that a person takes. After you hold your breath under the mikvah for a while, you pop up, you take that first breath. That's v'ruach nachin chadish bekirbi. He says the mikvah is leiv tar birali Elokim. It's Bria. It's the womb. It's the place that you can be reborn. You hold your breath, and when you're ready to go, you pop it out and you take that deep first breath. That's v'ruach nachin chadish bekirbi. You're new. You're new. Mayim tahoyim v'tarta. V'ishtalei mikol sitrin, and it's complete on all sides. Kedain ba'yavai berina, and then we can return in great joy. Yavai is return. Yavai is Teshuvah. We're returning. That's the sod of Teshuvah. Migoidahu shlimu uberchan mikidushin deshtalemas. The beneficiaries of the completion and the blessing and the holiness that's given upon us. Bekadmisa halach yelechu v'achai. In the beginning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was walking and crying because of our state rooted in the world of Yitzira, rooted in the world of the Eitz Hadas Toivera, rooted in the world of the lower perception of our ego, splintered away from the divinity at our core. Al chayvein di Yisrael bekatavai. When Am Yisrael go back, sabayav everina. The Gemara in Yuma echoes this Zohar Kodesh, of course, in a Nigla-oriented way. Amar Rebbe Levi, Gedoyla Teshuvah, greatest Teshuvah, and very few people understand this, unless you really understand the omek of everything that goes on. You can't really understand Agada. You can't really, because Agada is really Kabbalah, just in disguise a little bit. The Gra writes, in Eben Shlema, he says, Roiv Sisrei Torah, all the mysteries of the Torah are found in Agada. And we skip Agada, or we laugh at Agada, we don't understand Agada. Agada is really the soul of Torah. Reb Levi says, Teshuvah is great, Shemaga'as ad Kisei HaKavod, because it goes back to the place of the Kisei HaKavod. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem Elokecha, return Yisrael until you get to the place of Hashem Elokecha, which is a reference to Binah, Hashem Elokecha, because the name that's associated with Binah, without getting to this now, is the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei with the Nekudas of Elokim. That's how we refer to Binah in the Shem. It's Yud Kei Vav Kei with the Nekudas of Elokim. So Api Penimiyus, Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem Elokecha is Binah. And Binah is the Kisei HaKavod. Gedoyla Teshuvah, greatest Teshuvah, Shemagas at Kisei HaKavod, because it brings you back to the place of Kisei HaKavod. But Api Penimiyus, what's the kesher between Teshuvah and the Kisei HaKavod? This. That at our core, at our root, rooted in Yaakov Avinu, who's etched into the Kisei HaKavod, who Esav's dust can do nothing to conceal. And if it does succeed, it's only temporary, because Vihini Hashem nitzav alav, and a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. End of story. When we're able through Teshuvah to circumvent all of our wanderings in the fields of Cheshbonos Rabbim, and to reconnect with the part of us that's Asa Elikim as Adam Yashar, on the level of Asa Elikim, reborn, Leiv Tar Berali Elokim, we're able to reconnect with that place that's immutable, that we can do nothing to sever. We're able to tap into the place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu always has space for us, always, no matter what. We're able to rejoin hands with the essence of our identity, in the collectivity of our bond with all of Am Yisrael who are subsumed within the divine. Yisrael ala b'machshava tchila, not because of anything we did to deserve it or not deserve it. That's the sod of Teshuvah. Because you should, hold on 1 second, sorry, because you should have to pay for Teshuvah. It's like, it's a service. Like, what do you mean? You could just do Teshuvah? Like, what are you paying? And the answer is no. The premise of Teshuvah is that my relationship with Hashem, Ba'omek, is rooted in a place that has nothing to do with deserving or not deserving. It's rooted in a place that goes beyond me. It's rooted in a place that goes beyond, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's desire for me. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu's connection with me, that even though V'hinei Malach Elikim Oilim V'yardim, even though there's an experience subjectively of going up and going down, and Hashem wants us to strive, and Hashem wants us to work, and Hashem wants us to try to become beacons of His light in the world, but V'hinei Hashem nitzav alav. And that's the sod of Teshuvah. That's where everything is fixed. That's the realm where the breakage happens, the potential for breaking, and that's also the root. But the Zohar Kodesh and all the tzaddikim tell us, Ein adinim nimtakim, we can only sweeten judgments and separateness, ela b'sharashim, in the root. Very, very quickly, as we're running out of time. Yeah, okay, so we'll save for afterwards. Says the Hiligama Arinayim, well, this will try to bring it to an end. Might go a little bit over time, I hope you'll forgive me, but it's worth it, hopefully. Based on everything that we've said and everything that we've learned, b'siyata d'shmaya, now we're in position to understand this very, very involved paragraph, very difficult paragraph. Ki hine yesh lamala olam hanikra shofer gadol. Says the Ma'arei Naim, there's a realm in the upper world, in the upper layers of reality that's called shofer gadol. Tikabe shofer gadol l'cheiruseinu, we say Hashem, blow the great shofar. What's the world of the great shofar? It's called Alma Decheirus. It's the world of freedom. Why is it a world of freedom? Because limitation is constriction. What does it mean that I'm in handcuffs? It means that I can't move. I'm limited. I'm constricted. I'm stuck. Freedom means that there's no boundaries. It's beyond. So then I'm able to go ahead and connect to a realm of freedom that's going to be connected to the world of Bria, of Binah, which is beyond the stuckness of existence, the limitations of day and night and summer and winter, and the limitations of being human, which is already in the world of Yitzira, yesh mi yesh. Okay, it's stuck. The world of Bria really is rooted in the higher part of Bria. It's oneness we learned. It's the world of freedom. Alma Decheirus. And when we allow that reality to manifest within this realm, because it's the soul of the realm of Yitzira, and the realm of Yitzira is the soul of Asiya, so in a certain way everything is aligned, everything is wrapped up like layers of the onion, and so we can experience Bria through Yitzira, right? But within this world as well, in as much as that realm begins to settle within our experience of the limitations of reality, freedom we could experience. When do we blow the shofar? We blow the shofar Yovel. What's Yovel? Yovel is the 50th year. Why 50? Because 50 is the 50 gates of Binah. And what does Yovel mean? Yovel means that everything goes free. All the slaves go free in Yovel. Everything reverts back to its initial standing, its initial place, Yovel. Because Yovel is 50. What's 50? 1 beyond 49. 49 is 7 times 7. This is the realm of nature. What do? We blow a shofar. What's the shofar? In and of it, the very physical form. That's what a shofar is. It goes from the narrow end, wider and wider and wider and wider and wider, until if you can imagine a shofar that never ends in its widening grasp, it would include infinity. It would just be infinite forever and ever and ever. Why not? Anani bamer chavka. That's the shofar. From limitation, fragmentation, little speck here and a speck there, to the world of everything. We blow that Yovel, the 50th year. That's when everything goes free. Because 50 is 1 above 49. And that's the realm of oneness. And that's the realm of everythingness. That's when all the slaves go free. In this world also, Yovel is called the 50th year, and here he says it, and that's why it's in bold. Nun Shari Binah. This is connected to the 50 gates of Binah. Dimina dinin misarin, like we said, that Binah is the place where what? Where dinim judgments begin to emerge. Concealment, the experience of a limit, our experience of a world of limitations, that's where it starts. But that's also the place where we can hop beyond it. It will be Gil Sharanun when you get to that place of the 50th, which is one beyond the 49ness of nature. Nimtakim kol hadinim. Said Nimchakim, it really should be Nimtakim. Nimtakim kol hadinim b'sharashim. That's where everything gets sweetened in its root. Achal oilam hazeh ini yachal lavai ki in b'teshuvah. Says the only way to get into this world is the experience of Teshuvah. Kihu oilam ha-teshuvah. Binah is the world of Teshuvah. Like we just learned from the Gemara in Yuma, great is Teshuvah because it's Magasat Kisei HaKavod. Now we understand why. That's the fixing. That's the womb that fixes everything. That's the realm of our source, of our shirish, of the Pnei Yaakov, of Yini Hashem Nitzav, of that eternal connection that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has with us that goes beyond deserving. This world, Binah, is the place where creation begins to unfold from. Because the creation is in 7 days. And it starts from the sphere of Chesed. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Yisod, and Malchus. That's the 7 days of creation. That's the lower 7 energies, the lower 7 spheres. Okay, but where does everything begin? 1 above 7. Binah. Shenamar Olam Chesed Yibana. So the world starts from Chesed. But the word Yibana is the same letters of Binah. So Olam Chesed Yibana, it comes from Binah. Olam Chesed Yibana. Where do things begin to be built? Yibana is always as Binah. But Olam Chesed, right? The world starts from Chesed. The Teshuvah kadma la'olam. What do Chazal tell us in the Mishnah about Teshuvah? It was one of the things that was created before the world. Says the Maranam, you know what that means? It's because it's rooted in the place of Binah, which is before the world. And that's why Teshuvah enables me to go back in time and change everything. Not just to erase what was, to undo it b'shirish. That it wasn't done. Because Teshuvah enables me to go beyond the place of me that wanted to do something lowly, that was out of alignment with the true ratzon that I have, which is to allow HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence to manifest through me, in my learning, in my davening, in my midos, and all the things that I'm trying to work on. That's the real me. That's the face of Yaakov that's etched onto the Kisei HaKavod. That's forever. That's eternal. And right there, all the worlds are created. When we come to this world, Everything is batal. Kinasa beri ami chadash. We become a new person. Ki hu yotze bereishis. That's the realm of yotze bereishis. Let's go quickly to the finish line. Says the Agra Tekala. With this we get to Shabbos, and the Mamash will finish up. Vayevarech Elokim es yom hashvi vaykadosh oisei ki v'shavas mikol malachtai asher bara Elokim asher asa. Asher asa. Vayevarech Elokim es yom hashvi vaykadosh oisei. That's next. Vayichulu hashemayim va'aretz. Right? Kadosh Baruch Hu rests from everything that He made. What's Asher Asa? Which He made, but it's like an extra word, right? Asher Asa, that He made. Right? Just leave it at what's Asher Asa? Says the Heilige B'nai Yissaschar, the deepest thing in the world. Nir l'rameis. Hayos Yadua Asher Hu Bechinas Binah. He says these three letters, Asher, are a reference to the world of Binah that we've been speaking now for the last hour. This is what really we're coming to the end, last couple of minutes. Why is it called Asher? Because the word Asher means like ishur, like to allow something to be, to set something free. Asher, approve, right? Make something happen. Hamashreinu, Olam Teshuvah. That's what the Olam Teshuvah is. I was stuck in a certain cycle of behavior. Did Teshuvah, boom, Asher, Ishur, you're free. You're set to go. You're approved. That's the world of Asher. The Shabbos who shirish l'Teshuvah, and Shabbos is bound up in the world of Teshuvah. We discussed that last week. Hivoy Shavas mikol malachtai. On Shabbos, a Jew returns out of the muddled experience of the Olam Asiyah to a higher state of being. You can go up. You can go higher. You can go out. Shabbos is Oisias Tashiv. The word Shabbos is the same letters as Teshuvah, to return. Al Kain Asher Heim Oisias Koidim Shabbos. If you take the letter Shin and you go one letter before it, what do you get? One letter before Shin, Resh. One letter before Beis, Aleph. One letter before Tav, Shin, Asher. Asher. The word Asher is the word Shabbos on a more elemental level. The root to which we are returning through Shabbos, the world of Binah, the world of Asher. Ishur, Lahayres, Shekoidem HaShabbos Yilda B'chinas Asher. Before Shabbos, you get to the place of Asher. Shabbos is the ability for us to really realign ourselves. It's the springboard. Because of its and that's what it means. Shabbos was crowned from a long time ago. Mikedem. He says, Me Rosh Mikedem. The word Rosh is Asher, is those three letters that come before Shabbos. Mikedem. It's telling us, look at the letters Asher, which are Mikedem. They come before the letters of Shabbos, telling us Shabbos is Teshuvah. Where am I returning to? Asher, which is the world of Binah. Binah being connection to the concept of Nachal, like we learned. And that's actually a pasuk that says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu was recounting all the cities that they were able to conquer, and they said, Asher Banachal, that are in the Nachal. But al Pisoid, this is what it means. Asher is Binah, Nachal is Binah. Asher Banachal. Shabbos, we go to the Rosh Mikedem, Asher Mikedem. Ratzalemer Asvan, Rosh Mikedem LaAsvan Shabbos. These three letters Rosh come before the letters of Shabbos. V'neres Gam, the Seidakas of Tachas, Shaloy Avadadas, Hashem Adekecha B'Simcha. Underneath that which you didn't serve God with joy. Ratzalemer Shaloy Shomer Shabbos B'Simcha. You didn't experience Shabbos with joy. Shehu Tachas Asher. What Tachas Asher? What comes after, right? Beyond Asher. What's Tachas Asher? What's beyond the letters Aleph, Shin, Reish, Beis, Shin, Tav, which is Shabbos. We're not going to read the rest inside because I want to close now. And the next piece, which is Kedai, to see if yourselves can take the source sheets home and really review this over Shabbos, and just, it's very, very important sugya. With this, we're finishing. Reb Nosson says that we can connect to this place even through Ratzon, even not through Teshuvah itself. If I can't do Teshuvah. It's too hard for me. I can't go through the whole process. I'm not holding there. Want, he says. Want, yearn. He says yearning will take you to that place. Read it inside if you can on Shabbos. And then the last piece from the Zohar, 2 lines, we'll read it and we'll finish. Rabbi Eliezer was sitting and learning Torah. Rabbi Kiva came and he said, what are you learning? And he said, he says, I'm learning a pasuk in Shmuel that says, Kisei HaKavod that I will gift them with the Kisei HaKavod. I will inherit them the Kisei HaKavod. Ma'u Kisei HaKavod yanchilem? Zeu Yaakov Avinu. That's the Kisei HaKavod. Kisei HaKavod yanchilem. What's yanchilem is nachal. Nachal is Binah. All these things are connected together. With this, we can now return to what we began with. A much deeper understanding of what Chazal need to tell us. Whoever enjoys Shabbos properly, serves Hashem with simcha, tachas asher, serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu with the joy of returning to source, which is the highest joy there is, which is the joy of freedom, which is the joy of breaking out of the constriction of the way that we ordinarily live during the 6 days of the week. Shabbos is a taste of what? Of Olam Haba. Olam Haba is Binah, is the world of Chayers. They give us Nachala, B'li Mitzarim. Nachal, reference to Binah, B'li Mitzarim, without any constrictions, without any limitation, beyond the world of 7, beyond the world of 49. How? Not like Avram, not like Yitzchak, where still the relationship could be perhaps conditional, but the Nachlas Yaakov. As the pasuk says, V'hachalticha Nachlas Yaakov Avicha. Yaakov being connected to the Kisei HaKavod, the realm beyond the splintering of reality, the realm beyond the experience of V'hinei Sulam Mutzav Artso, where we start to connect to the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, to a lower realm, rather than identifying with the essence of what it is that we truly want, the place where we are truly free, even though sometimes we look at Torah mitzvahs like that's what's enslaving us, Ki'ilu, like freedom is doing what the guf wants. No, it's hafuch, it's hafuch. And we'll learn that at some point in our life. We have to learn that. It's hafuch. It's the biggest insanity. We're never happy that way. We know that. Hafuch. To return. What Shalosh is called? Rava de Ravin. The essence of will. The essence of desire. Shalosh is the essence of Shabbos. 3 meals on Shabbos are connected. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Shalosh is connected to Yaakov. It's the essence of desire. Rav Nosson says desire brings us to the world of Binah. That's the face of Yaakov and the Kisei HaKavod. That's where everything is fixed. That's the womb that enables us to be born anew, so that we can leave that realm of the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra and begin to connect to the true Eitz HaChaim, which is what Shabbos is. And Shabbos gives us the strength to march out into the next segment of 7, but safely rooted in our essence of who we really are and what it is that we truly want. To experience that place of Nachla B'li Mitzarim. There's no limitations because it's not conditional on anything you may or may not be able to do. It just is. You just are. Our holiness is rooted in eternity. Netzach Yisrael Lo Yishaker. Ashreinu Matov Chalkeinu Chaver. Ashreinu. Should be zeicha to review this and to get clarity in this. And this is the kind of Torah I think that our souls are desperately yearning for. And what a privilege to learn these words with you. So thank you. And I went way over time, and I really apologize, but thank you for sticking with me. And I hope it was worth it. Ashreinu Chaver, thank you so much.